Hello, good and faithful people of the Church of the Mediator. It's Father Dale. And my framing question this week is why, as a parish, set ourselves out to celebrate Black History Month? Why do that? Before I go there, I want to remind you that this Sunday, the 12th of February, is the sixth Sunday after the Epiphany. At 9 a.m., I hope you will come out and welcome Pastor Jeannie Watson, who is our guest preacher. Pastor Jeannie is the ecumenical coordinator for the Conference of Churches, one of our outreach partners here in Allentown. And Pastor Jeannie is also the shepherd, the pastor of a Pentecostal congregation here in Allentown as well. So I hope you'll come hear Pastor Jeannie preach this Sunday morning. Following the 9 a.m. liturgy, we will have adult forum, and we have a guest presenter who is the Reverend Dr. Steve Simmons, retired Presbyterian pastor, retired professor of theology at Moravian Seminary over in Bethlehem. Steve is coming to talk about research leading to a book that is being published this year about nuns, those in the younger generations who have grown up without any religious affiliation, and duns, those who have decided to leave religious affiliation entirely, the ways that they make meaning, the questions that they're asking, the ways that perhaps we as the church might have a word of peace and of truth and of goodness for them as well. So come and join us for adult forum following the liturgy on Sunday. Why celebrate Black History Month as the Church of the Mediator, as a parish in West End, Allentown? Part of that is because I am the co-chair of the Diocesan Task Force for Racial Justice and Reconciliation. Racial justice and reconciliation is imperative as far as I am concerned, theologically and ethically and morally. And because one of the ways that we begin to unpack and to get around our institutional racism is to celebrate and to take on and to engage in new ways of being, including incorporating guest preachers, including singing music from Black composers. But this is not just a woke idea, a politically correct idea. I give you a little bit from N.T. Wright. Tom Wright is a retired bishop in the UK who is known in the Anglican Communion for his brilliant scholarship on St. Paul and the New Testament, on the resurrection and resurrected reality. N.T. Wright is a prominent teacher and is not a progressive. He is known for his relatively conservative theology, most especially on questions of human sexuality and sexual identity. But N.T. Wright is also someone that I value and I consider to be a brilliant exemplar of what it means to get down into the nitty-gritty about what the New Testament is saying to us and has to say to us still. In 2020, N.T. Wright, Tom Wright, gave a talk from Wycliffe Hall in Cambridge, and he says a few things about the importance of the churches and our question of engaging with the dismantling of systemic, historical, and present racism. Listen to what N.T. Wright says. There are a couple of quotes that I'll read to you. He says, "The churches are in the wrong, not because they haven't obeyed the politically correct agenda, but because they haven't obeyed their own foundational charter." And you ask, what is our foundational charter as churches? N.T. Wright says, "What we now call racism is not simply for Christians a failure to obey one or other moral standards. For example, that we should love our neighbor as ourselves. It is deeper even than that." He says, "It is a failure of vocation. The Church of the Anointed Jesus, the world's true Lord, was designed from the start to be a worldwide family, God's new model of human life. He goes on to say, this family, in fact, referring to what the church should be, this family, in fact, is called to be a worship-based, spiritually renewed, multi-ethnic, gender-blind in leadership, polychrome, mutually supportive, outward-facing, culturally creative, socially responsible, fictive kinship group. It is a family for everyone and all people. He says living in this way is not an optional extra for followers of Jesus, a kind of added hobby for those who want something different on top of their regular Bible study or prayer meetings. It is part of the deal of being Christian, he says. The churches are in the wrong, not because they haven't obeyed the politically correct agenda, but because they haven't obeyed their own foundational charter. Let me be blunt. It simply won't do merely to say racism is sinful and we must get rid of it. The churches worldwide have known that for a long time, and it's had little effect. Little effect we know because, of course, the Sunday hour in worship is oftentimes the most segregated hour of our common life. And he says there's a double danger in just repeating the ethical imperative not to be racist. First, it makes it sound as though we are taking our ethical instructions from the more radical or even woke factions in our society and are scrambling to get on board with a prevailing secular agenda. The failure to obey Christ's call, that is our vocation, this is what N.T. Wright is saying, is a failure of our foundational responsibility and charter as Christian people. That is why we stand as those, even here at the Church of the Mediator, who are building bridges across all divides and making justice where there is inequality and finding our way little by little, my friends, into beloved community. I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Until then, blessings.